Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to The Lads, brought to you by a breath of fresh footy. And we love talking footy on this show. And I mean, it's great to have the lads on. I'm glad we're doing it a little bit later. As I said in my video yesterday, the results were absolutely crazy in match week 4. And you just got to sometimes think about it and digest all of the information and why these things happen all the time. Again, this red light looks fantastic on my microphone, but it's a pleasure to bring Vishy and Ponna back here with me now. And I'd love to talk about a couple of things in particular. I want to go into the results straight away with your two teams in particular. Arsenal had a very chilled out game, 2-1. So I don't need to talk about that. It was very chilled. But the Manchester United game in particular and the Liverpool game were the two talking points, as well as the Leicester game. What did you guys both see with those results, and why do you think it happened? We might start with Bishy first.
It was very chill for me as well. I took Patrice Evra's comments at halftime to heart and fired up the Xbox and just played some Xbox. But yeah, the first half, and then I came back and watched the second half later. But oh my god, where do we start? Martial, I don't know. He's what, 24, I think now, 23 or 24. Surely he knows, you don't retaliate, you know, aggressively, stupidly. You know, there's, I think nowadays 30 or 36 cameras watching the football. There's no way he was going to get away with it. But the fact that Lamella did still annoys me. I think it was the Premier League productions. They crossed to I think it was Dermot Gallagher who was saying, there was no clear and obvious error in the ref only giving Lamella a yellow card. So I don't really understand how that clear and obvious kind of nomenclature actually works. If they're not picking up someone getting slapped in the face, even if it is very weak and stupid, I think either both should have got yellows or, well, actually, I think both should have got reds. And then, we'll see how it worked out from there. But in terms of the Man United performance, other than the first 30 seconds and a little brief period when we were, I think, 3-1 down, it was pretty shit. The defense played too deep, disjointed, sometimes too high a line, sometimes too deep. Didn't really seem to know what to do at corners. The players, like, it's almost as a, have you guys ever played like with too many people, like playing on Xbox or PlayStation, and you've chosen like 4 people aside and you're playing 4v4 and you don't know how to coordinate, and you leave stupid gaps at the back because some guy thinks he's a hero, takes the centre back and goes dribbling for like 5.5 minutes, and you're like, dude, you're the centre back, you're supposed to be back there. It's like these players don't seem to play as though they've trained with each other. So you just have to wonder, like, how much training are they doing? How much tactical work are they doing? The fact that we're getting so many injuries, you have to wonder what's going on with the physiotherapy, what's going on with the recovery and the warm-ups. And, it's just crazy all around. It's like, I think Arsenal went through a similar problem with injuries and they got it right, and it took them a little while to get right. But the fact that, Phil Jones has signed a new contract over I think it was last summer, and we haven't seen him for like months. I don't think he's played for like a year or something. it's just crazy. The midfield doesn't seem to work. We brought in Donny van der Beek, and he's not playing that often. We don't really like the fans don't seem to know where we want to see him play. Solskjaer doesn't seem to know, whose spot he should be taking. What is Pogba doing, like with his life? you could go and say like this morning comments come out from the French camp. Oh, I would love to play for Real Madrid one day. Everyone dreams. Blah blah blah. Zidane is a great manager. I'm like, dude, you haven't really done anything to justify your spot in the Man United squad, let alone get a transfer to Real Madrid. Like, why would Real Madrid want you at the moment? You're supposed to be the leader of a team that just got pumped 6-1. And you hasn't put in a good performance for his club for like a year, probably. Like,
same with us with Ozil, man. Well, absolutely
it's horrible. Like our two kind of standout players over the last year have been Bruno Fernandes and Harry Maguire, and they're at if rumors are to believe, they were at each other's throats at halftime. And I think, like the big stars probably need a rest, but we don't have the strength in depth to actually allow them for rest. Like if this was 2007 or 2008, I think Sir Alex asked Wayne Rooney to go sit on a beach for 2 weeks and then come back, and rotated that around the squad for, Giggs took a couple of weeks, Ronaldo took a couple of weeks. Everyone, got a holiday after the Euros because, it was a tough season. But we can't do that this year. But you can certainly see they need strengthening, some rest and recuperation, and training.
But there's no Vichy, there's no spirit within the team. I mean, when you talk about these wonderful Manchester United teams, there was a huge spirit and there was a lot of egos that were in there, and they fought for each of the players. I mean, the problem that I see in the midfield in particular, watching the game, is that Fernandes and Pogba, they don't work together in the midfield at all. You either have one...
Wait. Bruno works, Pogba doesn't. That's the problem, right? Pogba, like, you read any of the analysts, who watch Italian football that closely. When Pogba was playing for Juventus, the best thing about his game was he was the decisive kind of pass maker, 35 yards, 40 yards from goal. He wasn't the one getting the ball off the defensive midfielder in his own defensive half. He was the one who was, getting assists, the odd goal, helping in the build-up of play, but very much in the offensive half.
Yep.
So I don't think the team is structured to use him correctly, but then we're not playing well enough to actually have him as he would like to play either.
Yep.
So maybe it's time to drop him, and until we actually start playing well enough to be able to afford to have him as the kind of luxury player that he is.
Yeah, I reckon you're actually right, and they need to drop Maguire as well. I mean,
but we don't have the defensive reinforcements to do that. Like just overnight, Eric Bailly's just picked up another injury playing for Ivory Coast.
Yep.
So that leaves us down to Lindelof. So Maguire, Lindelof, Tuan Zabi, who's almost always injured, Rojo and Jones, and Rojo and Jones have been left off the Champions League squad. So unless they're going to be, heavily featuring in the Premier League, I don't think Solskjaer trusts either of them. So it's going to, I don't think Maguire's going to get a break, even though he needs one.
Yeah, there was some pretty poor defending, but I want to come back to a couple of things that I saw in the game. Like, I thought it was quite an open game to begin with, even though you went 2-1 down. That was absolutely fun. I'm going to bring Connor into the discussion in a sec, but I agree with you. It either should have been 2 red cards or 2 yellow cards. Both of those incidences with the the sending off and stuff like that. They were both facial contact, so you can't rule either one of them differently. So they should have had the same outcome. Sherwood and a couple of others on Optus Sport in particular were really, really scathing of the decision because they thought that both players should have got the same decision. And this is where I want to bring Ponner in particular with the VAR system. We're just seeing so much discrepancy with stuff, and it's ruining games of footy because I was really enjoying that game, and it just knocked the absolute stuffing out of United.
Oh, thanks for letting me get a word in, boys, here.
But we thought the longer we kept you shut, the probably better for us. But
Nah, look, I think it was a shocking. It's unbelievable. Really rounded games on the weekend. 3 big results because the Leicester result was a huge one as well. But the United performance was just insipid. Like a lot of people I know have called it, one of, if not the worst United performance in the last God knows how many years. I mean, I've got a friend of mine who's been a United supporter for over 45 years, reckons it's the worst United performance he's ever seen. And if you look at performances like that 6-1 against Man City, like that was a brilliant Man City side. And I don't think they played that bad on the day, the United boys. I mean, this was just horrendous. Maguire has some real issues.
The thing is, right, like that 6-1, it was relatively close in the midfield. But almost every time we tried to go forward, we'd get picked off on the counter.
Yeah. That was peak City.
This was just like, insane. We didn't have the ball for that much to actually get picked off on the counter. We were just horrible, shambolic in defence.
No, 100%. And, Liverpool weren't much better. Some real issues, real puzzling display, really. Issues with the high line that Liverpool were playing in defence. They liked that high press. I think it sort of came back to bite us in the arse against Villa. Gomez had a horrendous game, I thought. I've got to say, with Fabinho playing in the centre of defence and playing okay previously, I think he's probably first choice now with Van Dijk. Mind you, Van Dijk has also been a little bit off his high standards. Made a mistake in that Leeds game, and then I think when he's fit, when he's playing well, he's one of the best centre backs in the world. But I think he's below his best at the moment. And then obviously, you see. Sorry, Vish, what was that?
It's mental fatigue, right?
Yeah, but this has to go back to your point earlier about playing Xbox. Like, mate, these guys are multimillionaires, right? They're getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars a week. Like, you're a professional footballer.
I don't think the wages has got anything to do with it. It's just, you're doing the same thing over and over and over without the ability to rest and recuperate and take a break. It's going to grind. It's like, doing whatever we do for work. If we never had a holiday, we'd go crazy.
But I mean, also let's be fair income. With both of our teams, we played really late into the season as well. I do see this fatigue thing happening as well. But a couple of pundits, Ponner, was saying that, like Carragher and a couple of others, are saying that the display showed some sort of arrogance with it because they wanted to play this high line, and because they didn't get really beat. In your game, you had 3 deflections that went in. I mean, how often is that going to happen in a game? But there was this touch of arrogance that they think they could get away with it. And I also want to put the other point on there. I mean, the 2 games that you played against Arsenal at Anfield, they were pretty full-on games of footy. You know what I mean? They weren't pussyfooting around. You know what I mean? And I reckon we tired you guys out because when I saw our game with Sheffield United, we were smashed by the 80th minute. And I really put that down to those 2 Liverpool games that we played. Hard opposition to play as well.
Yeah, I get that point. But at the end of the day, and look, it's obviously been a different season with COVID. causing issues with the start date of the new season and, the lack of rest in between. But at the end of the day, these guys are professionals. I can understand to an extent the fact that, you're coming off the back of the season, you haven't had that much of a rest. But, I mean, you had rest during the COVID period. You paid hundreds of thousands of dollars a week to play football. And at the end of the day, I don't think that's an excuse. I don't think it's a palatable excuse. So, look, going back to what your point was, there's a couple of things I want to address. The Martial decision, if you look at the interpretation of those sorts of incidents historically, the retaliator always gets the harsher penalty. It's just the way these things work. I don't particularly agree with it. I think it was soft, but that is the interpretation of how these things are judged. Martial should have known better. It was incredibly soft there. Your point about the handballs has been really bugging me for a long, long time. This is something that I've been talking about for a couple of years now. The interpretation of the handball law. I'm not sure what the wording of the law is, but it's interpreted now to be, it's got nothing to do with hand to ball or ball to hand. It's got to do with where your hands are judged to, what sort of position your hands are judged to be in, whether it's in an unnatural position or a natural position. But what's happening now is that players are getting pinged for having the hand like away from their body, which is absolutely absurd. Because
making their silhouette larger.
Yeah, I mean, Gary Neville, if you watch Gary Neville's commentary on this, like Gary Neville's a really insightful pundit.
Yeah.
He was a pain on the football pitch as a Liverpool fan, right? But he's a great pundit, and he makes a really good point. You're defending the likes of Mo Salah, if we're talking Premier League context, and Kevin De Bruyne on a world stage, Ronaldo and Messi. There's no way you can defend these guys with your hands behind your back. There's no way. And everybody's got a different way of balancing themselves as well as a human being, right? So I don't think it's unreasonable for a bloke to have his hand by his side. I would like to see, this is one of the things that I think, in my opinion, I think VAR actually helps with this sort of stuff. I really do. And I don't understand why we can't go back to the old hand to ball rule unless your hand's in a completely absurd, ridiculous position. Like if your hand's up here, right, then I understand. If you're trying to block, if you're trying to use your hand as an advantage to block blokes being able to play passes, I get it. But this is my point, right? With the advent of VAR and slowing stuff down, it's incredibly easy to see whether your hand moves towards the ball or not, right? So if your hand's not in a ridiculous position, for me, it should be hand to ball. Because what I would do if I was a manager in a big game, as bad as this sounds, you're trying to win titles, you're trying to win games. I would tell my players when you're in and around the box, right? Try and ping the ball into someone's hand, and then let's all go up for handball. It's against the spirit of the game. I get that, but I mean, you're there to win games of football, and the way that the rules are judged at the moment, I don't think it's right. It's really, really annoying me.
Well, I hate the handball rule at the moment because the problem is, a lot of in the EPL, you need to be able to jump for the ball, and a lot of people move their hand and leverage so that they can actually get some height to the ball. Otherwise, a striker or a tall player has just got a huge advantage. They can't do anything, and the decision with the top was the most ridiculous thing because he couldn't see the ball behind him. The ball literally was hit behind him. He had no idea where it was and was given a penalty. I mean, this
is Eric Dyer. Are you talking about Eric Dyer? Yeah. I think, look, without technology, the whole hand to ball thing is incredibly hard because you've got a split second to adjudge that call as a referee, right? Okay, or an assistant referee or linesman, right? Now with VAR, and VAR, they're not afraid to use it. That's another discussion. Are they overusing VAR? But VAR for handballs is simple. you slow it down and you see what has the bloke's hand done when the ball's come. Like, is he? Do you know what I mean? And for me, that's I don't understand why we can't do that. And as going to your point about jumping, like, everybody's different. People jump different ways, right? Like, yeah, okay, like,
you have to use. You pretty much have to use your hand to try and get.
That's right. And I think Eric Dyer came and said after that decision post game, he said, I'm terrified of the law. And I think a lot of defenders are, because your hand, if you know what I mean, your hand's there as almost as like a target. So I think they've got to address that. I think you've got to look at that. I really do.
Yeah, but also my thoughts also, and you can help me answer this one, Vishy, as well. With VAR, I think the most important thing for VAR was like why Hawkeye and all these things were brought into other sports. It's to make sure that the howler is spotted, because the refs these days and the soccer that's being played, or footy, whatever you want to call it, is at such a breakneck speed. They can't see everything. They don't get the right angles for everything. So, I mean, the VAR system, in my opinion, needs to be to get rid of the howler. If there's dispute with it, I mean, I would love the umpire or the ref to have more say, because that's that human aspect to the game. Otherwise, you start getting really, really technical, and you get these crap decisions with handball and stuff when it shouldn't be there in the first place.
Well, that's the thing. I don't really agree with the way I believe VAR is being used in the Premier League, right? So, to the best of my knowledge at the moment, like when a ref misses something, and the people, the VAR says, mate, I think you've missed incident XYZ. This is what I think you should do. Instead of saying, hey, ref, I think you missed something, go and take a look at this incident. So then it just becomes another referee interpreting, the pictures, the images, whatever, occurred.
Yep.
Right? So then what that second ref, the VAR guy, is doing is saying, was it something clear and obvious that the ref on the field has missed? But what I actually think, and like that kind of standard for which they intervene, right, and get in the ref's ear and say, hey, mate, I think you missed something that if you had saw, you would have done something about. I think that standard is almost too high now, because the Martial incident, if the ref was, had the ability to see, the incident from behind the goal, say, he would have seen both slaps and surely would have given 2 red cards.
Yeah. I also have an issue. I also have an issue with VAR, and I want to bring this with you guys as well, is that I see the same thing with cricket. When it's slowed down that much, everything is accentuated a hell of a lot more, and catches that are catches in cricket look like drop catches, but they're not. The fingers are under the ball. I feel like that's the whole issue here. Everything's accentuated. The umpire should be making the decision at the speed which it was played at, because then you get a much clearer idea of something.
Exactly. Like that's one thing I kind of disagree with what Tim said about the handball. Like I can understand, right? You would think if you slow down the footage, you can actually see where that, like, the intention behind, movements of the hands and stuff. But when you're running at that speed trying to catch a defender, your arms are pumping as fast as they can to try and catch up with, Sane or, whoever. Sorry, did I say Sane? I meant Mane or Salah. Sane has left the Premier League. But trying to catch him is going to be bloody hard too in the Champions League. But yeah, your hands are going to be pumping as hard as you can. How are you going to slow it down to be able to see, was the guy just running and pumping his arms, or actually, and the ball has hit his arm while he's running, or like when a defender has stopped and that a ball to hand occurs, you'll be able to say, okay, you can see he's moved his hand in reaction to seeing the ball. But when you're at motion at 25 kilometers an hour, I don't know if slowing it down is actually going to help, because like the law doesn't actually require deliberate intentionality, but the interpretation of the referees has led to a belief that it has to be intentional. But I I think the whole handball thing almost needs to be rewritten, or completely reevaluated to consider whether or not it's actually a goal scoring opportunity. But then again, that brings another layer of complexity, right? So like a guy who's wasting time almost going away from goal and gets a handball, should he really get a penalty? Compared, like if you compare the Suarez incident from the World Cup, when he's literally on the line and he's second goalkeeper in second goalkeeper mode, like that's obviously a straight red card and a penalty, and you know fair enough. But if you're at the corner of the box and trying to make a cross into a packed defense, does that really deserve like a penalty and the same opportunity to score a goal?
I think in that, I think that's
Like it's I wouldn't say it's a Gordian knot, but like if you try and change one thing, you lead to so many different potential consequences that you have to be wary, And also, like with VAR, how long do we want VAR stoppages to be now?
like my point with I think
203 minutes. Halves are turning into like 50 minutes because we've had like a 5.5 minute stop for VAR to check for a freaking penalty and handballs and stuff. Like the actual effective ball in play time is going to be pretty low, and it's getting lower.
Yeah, look, I think it's obvious. It's an obvious case of balancing the free flowing nature of football with, do we want to get decisions 100% correct? And I've got to say, as someone that's grown up watching football my whole life, it feels weird to have VAR. It's not a sport that lends itself to VAR like tennis or cricket. It does feel strange. It does almost feel like it's not football. But at the end of the day, I think this once again alludes to the fact you're dealing with people who are paid an absurd amount of money. You're dealing with clubs that are paid an absurd amount of money to win trophies. As you've seen with certain clubs missing out on Europe, it's almost bankrupt. Them. So we do want to get decisions right as much as we can. For me, I was thinking with VAR, what about the potential of a challenge system that the managers or the benches can use in a similar way to cricket? So they're only so for example, you have 2 or 3 challenges per half or per game, and if you get the decision, if you challenge the referee's decision and they go to VAR and the referee's correct, you lose that challenge. So that way they would only challenge decisions that are important or momentous or big. Because I think you're right, they're using it a lot. There's a lot of stoppages in the game. It is, I don't know, it's changing the way football's watched and played. But at the same time, we want to get the big decisions right. We do. I mean, that's just the nature. World Cups are won and lost. We don't want an incident where, a clear-cut incident like the Frank Lampard crossbar thing in 2010, even though England would have been destroyed in that game anyway, to happen. So that's what I've just that's something, that's an idea that I just thought of, was take it out of the assistant referee's hands. Let the managers challenge. If they see a decision that's horrendous, they issue a challenge.
A couple of years ago, right? But it didn't come up because they didn't want it being used strategically like in the NFL.
But
Okay.
Strategically, as in, what do you mean?
Like for time wasting purposes. If
Oh, okay.
you're struggling in the box, what happens if you use all three of them and you go, oh yeah, well we've gone from the 88th minute to the 91st minute and he's about to blow his whistle and we've successfully kind of killed the game through two VAR challenges.
But I mean, my problem
Yeah.
with VAR the whole time and when the handball decisions is that at the moment, because VAR is in such control, the refs don't have the power that they used to have with it, and they're scared to make a decision. I don't want refereeing to turn like cricket, where they're scared to give an LBW decision, and it's so obvious because they want that use of technology. It needs to be found and implemented in a way that the umpire or the ref has the right of say. If they make a valid decision, that's the only reason why VAR should be in there in the first place. You need to leave the refs to make the decisions. And this offside thing at the moment, it grinds my bloody gears. They don't call offside straight away anymore. And you watch this play go on for like 30 seconds, right? Yeah. It was an offside 30 seconds ago. Again, it wastes time. It wastes the player's energy, during seeing that. It's really, 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 really frustrating to watch, But again, we've got this...
And the consequences of those kind of offside things is most of the time the defender stops or the goalkeeper stops.
Yeah.
So the attacker puts it in the back of the net, and then if it's found to not have been an offside, right, then obviously, the defender shouldn't have stopped and the goalkeeper should have tried. But the fact that the goal still stands, right? Like I'd rather have a couple of, incorrect decisions, even if they're marginal, than having one side, play on erroneous belief.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or hope, rather.
Yeah, well, it cost Chelsea the FA Cup because in 2017, when Alexis Sanchez kicked that goal, the opening goal in that FA Cup, it was exactly the same thing. They thought Ramsey was offside, and they stopped playing. And of course, Sanchez kept playing because Ramsey wasn't part of the play, and they continued that play, and he kicked the goal. You know what I mean? And that's the issue with the offside thing. They've just got to call it straight away. If they don't call it, and then they call it 30 seconds later, it's a huge, huge waste of time. But, I love talking about VAR and all this sort of stuff. But for me as well, the issue with this season that I think is going to be a continuing one, and I want your thoughts before we call it a night, is this aspect of the crowd. Do you think that it's going to really affect results this season, especially for the big clubs? Because we're seeing some ridiculous things that I've never seen before. That was the most epic round of EPL football I've seen in my 30 years. And it just proved how even the competition is. Do you think that crowd is really going to be telling for who wins the EPL, let's say, for this year?
I definitely do. And I think it's probably taken a COVID-disrupted legal spectacle to actually consolidate the fact that home ground advantage does mean something, but not so much in terms of location as much as it is atmosphere and crowd. And if you look at football, football's one of the sports with the greatest atmospheres. It's one of the most passionately followed sports in the world. And I was wondering this the other day, and a couple of people I play casual football with on Sundays, Tim and Ange, brought this up on the weekend and said, have a look at how many games the away team has won this year compared with years gone. So I went and did a bit of a checkup, and the away team has won. So if my stats are right, there have been 38 Premier League games this year, so 4 rounds. The away team has won 19 games, so 50% of the time the away team has won. In years gone by, that stats generally sits around about 26%. So basically a quarter of the time the away team are winning games. For me, that's a very clear indication that home crowds and supporter bases matter they make a huge difference in terms of atmosphere, in terms of vibe, in terms of helping players. I guess getting them up and about, getting in away players' ears, that kind of thing. And I think, it's a clear indication of that. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think it goes underrated. You know, it's like I suppose the I don't even know what you call it, it's not a proverb, but you know, the old saying of the crowd is the 12th man. It's probably proven to be true. The amount of noise, you know, the random old blokes who think they're still playing and, you know, shout out man on and, you know, you're hot and whatever the hell else, from the tears probably actually does have some kind of effect in putting on that little bit of well, not just a little bit, but a significant amount of pressure, which, you know, gets the players to focus and really focus on using their skills, and stay switched on. And I think that's kind of shown, especially in this weekend, where we've seen two ridiculously high scores, when supposedly better teams' defenses have just crumbled. And I think it's shown that you know, players like Van Dijk, even though he's probably, you know, the best central defender in the world, still needs people around him and still needs the environment to perform at the best of his abilities. And not having, you know, the environment as he's used to, certainly evens the playing field.
Well,
like, obviously some guys can't handle the pressure, so, you know, they turn out to be better in training than they do in games. So
I think, you know, what's been fascinating for me watching this last 4 rounds, and I'll sum it up, and I want you to get your thoughts on 3 games for the next match round. My thoughts are that the Northern teams are really, really loud. They're suffering without their crowds. That's the first time in maybe 15 years that 2 Manchester teams aren't in the top 10. I've never seen that. I haven't seen that in my lifetime. It's a huge thing. They have pretty noisy crowds, even if City is known as a dead hole. I mean, some of the games that they've had, their crowd is pretty loud as well. And I feel that, you know, with Old Trafford in particular, you guys conceding 9 goals in 2 home games there is a really, really concerning stat. I've never seen that for a top team. And I think that's what makes me think that the Liverpool game is a little bit more of a one-off, because even in that game, they still kicked 2 really fantastic goals. And I mean, you can't help it when you have 3 deflections like that. And they were still in that game. So that's where I see this difference. And so having seen this and seeing the Northern teams struggle, London teams like Arsenal and stuff where the Emirates is a dead zone and there's no noise, actually suits us during COVID a lot more. No, serious though.
You can see what the effect of not having the semi-toxic atmosphere at West Ham. Like, the players are loving it, not having the toxic atmosphere to play in. They're actually
all West Ham fans have now unsubscribed to this channel, Matty.
Nah, it's all good. We've got 2 minutes to go, right? I want to get both of your thoughts. So we're going to focus on 3 games in particular. So the first game is the Everton versus Liverpool game. I want to know what result you think is going to be with that game, and that's at Goodison Park. Then I want the Newcastle and Man United, because you're a United supporter, Schnoo, and what you think of the Man City versus Arsenal game. Whoever wants to go first, go.
Schnoo?
I think Everton will beat Liverpool. I think Newcastle and Man United will draw. And what was the other one? Man City versus Arsenal. Well, given Man City's defensive problems and Arsenal, yeah, I can see Arsenal winning now.
Nice. All right. What about you, Connor?
Well, I'm going to show a lot of respect to Everton. I know yeah, there's obviously that big rivalry. But as far as I'm concerned, it's just if you're from Liverpool that you hate Everton, you know, I'm going to show them a lot of respect. I think they have been outstanding this year. Whenever you get Shea Hunt on your next podcast, mate, he's going to be pumped. But Dominic Calvert-Lewin's been outstanding. They have, I mean, in what world is James Rodriguez going to play for a, let's call him a 7th or 8th best side in the Premier League? I mean, it just shows what the strength of the Premier League is. Yeah. I'm gonna call that a draw. I'm gonna say that's 2-2. In turn, what was the other one? Newcastle and Man United. I don't know. I mean, where is that one? Is that at Old Trafford?
No.
Or is that at
what's that? What's St James, isn't it, or something?
St James's, yeah. I'll say that's a draw as well. And then, yeah, I think Man City will do you, Matty. Yeah. But that's another one. I mean, like, prior to this weekend gone, after the Leicester result, the City-Leicester result, I know that obviously Leeds ran as close. I said, mate, we're winning the title, you know, easily. And then, you know, then we had that result on the weekend. It's been a real strange start to the year.
Hey, after Villa's good result against Liverpool, I don't know about great performance, but great result. Do you think they'll get the job done against Leicester?
That's another great game too. I mean, look, the three teams you got Everton, you got Leicester, you got Villa. Leicester and Everton in particular have been
top three
playing really good football.
Yeah,
I mean they you know, I mean they would. I think they would give any of the top clubs around Europe a run for their money. You know, so I don't know. I still back Leicester with that one. I just think that they're a better side. I think the Villa win was possibly, maybe a bit tricky. I don't know. I just think for me, if there are two sides that I think are going to break into the top 6 this year, they're Everton and Leicester, that you would have said were outside the top 6 at the start of the year. They're the two. So,
hey, Matty, who do you think is going to win between Spurs and West Ham?
I think Spurs should, but who knows? West Ham can show up, but I would go 2-1 to the Spurs. I don't want them to win, but I really think at the moment they're on a bit of a run. They like playing a lot of games together. So the results are speaking for themselves. They're getting more unity. 2-1 very easily. Having said that, though, with the Man City and Arsenal game, I think we got a big chance because I think we're structured in a way where we're hard to actually penetrate our defence now. For the first time in a long time, I mean, Liverpool game, even though you guys beat us 3-1, it took you the 88th minute to really set that game alight, you know, and win comfortably. And then the Carabao Cup, it was a 0-0 draw. I think we did a fantastic job. So I think we've got every chance of beating City. I think Arteta knows exactly what he's doing with Pep's system, and I reckon he'll try and boss him. And if we don't beat them here, I reckon we'll give them a run for their money in the Carabao Cup, which is awesome quarterfinal.
Hey, Matt, do you think Thomas Partey slots straight into the team?
He won't play straight away. Knowing Arsenal, they'll give him a couple of weeks just to really settle him in. He's the best thing I've seen come into Arsenal since 2007, 2008. He really fills in the spot that we need. So I'm
more than Aubameyang.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, right, with Aubameyang, right, the one thing that Arsenal have always had, even when they had Walcott and Giroud, they know how to strike a goal. Even when they were crap, they know how to strike a goal. But they never could fill that spot. They never
walking the ball in the net type Arsenal, 100%. Can I just say with Tottenham, how good is Son Heung-min? Honestly, that guy, he's the best agent footballer of all time. Yeah. I'm gonna say that guy is just phenomenal. I hope he gets 100 Premier League goals because it's a fairly exclusive club. I mean, there's a few people that have done it, but it'll be awesome. He's and Harry Kane showing a few more strings to his bow with the playmaking type stuff a little bit.
I want to see what happens when a team actually sort of parks a bus against them, because that's where I think they're going to, and that's where the draws have happened.
Nathan Ericsson.
It definitely won't be Liverpool. I can tell you that.
I don't-
They'll be parking the bus in the opposition half. Yeah, maybe.
I don't think they will beat you guys. I think they'll struggle to beat us at the Emirates, to be honest. I really do. They don't like it. They don't like it. And to me, until they win a trophy, they're a bunch of bloody pretenders, in my opinion. They are an absolute bunch of pretenders. So
It's strange. Would you call it a Mourinho side? I mean, it's a very strange. What have their results been so far? I mean, you think if there's one guy in world football, you think would come into a side and really have stuff organised defensively, and then sort of almost compromise the flair ability as you saw it at United. It's Jose Mourinho, but they seem to still be playing with that flair. I mean, they've got some guys like Lucas Moura, Son. I don't think they're as complete a side as they were previously. They obviously lost Vertonghen, Trippier. Did they lose someone in midfield? Eriksen's no longer there.
Huge loss. But also they've leaked goals. Every game they've leaked goals this year, which is very unusual for a Mourinho side.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. I mean, Mourinho is probably the best defensive-minded manager in the world. So strange.
Absolutely. And then my thoughts are the Newcastle United game. I reckon Newcastle's going to do you 1-0. I really do. I really worry about it.
Yeah.
I really worry about it. And if you're conceding goals like what you have, 9 goals in 2 home games,
yeah,
it's going to happen, man. That's really scary. And Everton-Liverpool, that game I can't choose. It's going to be a 3-2 result, and it wouldn't surprise me if it went either way. Seriously, it just would not surprise me. I'll probably go...
It'll be high scoring. They won't cancel each other out.
No way. The Everton leaks way too many goals. They have no defence. So they do it by kicking a lot of goals. They've conceded like 2 goals nearly every game.
That's why I said 2-2. I could see it being more. I can see either side winning. I don't know what Alisson. Yeah, I'll tell you that. I mean, he's vital to Liverpool this year, as you've seen with Adrian's performance. Jokingly, we can't seem to get a decent goalkeeper in between the sticks if it's not him, as you've seen with Karius and Mignolet before. So, but I'm really genuinely happy for Everton. I've always, as I said, look, as a Liverpool fan, I've always, with Timmy obviously playing there for as long as he did, and he's one of my favourite footballers ever and just favourite people ever. I've always had that soft spot for them, even though I'm a Liverpool fan. As I said, I'm not a Scouser. I don't hate them. But, you know, good to see them doing well. They are supposed to be a big club, you know.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, and you know,
now
good to see Leeds back in the Premiership as well, and a couple of other clubs.
Yeah.
Vish, I think you guys need to work on signing some defenders and sorting Pogba out.
They need a midfield, man. They need a midfield.
You need a whole new hierarchy, infrastructure, process, operating procedures, everything.
Where are the kids, mate? I mean, it's one thing as a Liverpool fan. One thing I've always said, that class of '92, mate. Honestly, you cannot fault them. And how many games, how many years did they play together? I mean, Beckham would have obviously stayed there for longer, I think, if he and Fergie didn't have that falling out. Where are the academy guys? Greenwood's one, Rashford's one, I guess. Where are more? McTominay, maybe.
McTominay's one.
Yeah.
Brandon Williams is one. I actually think we're probably over-reliant on the youth.
Okay.
We've got a couple of centre-backs who are coming through as well, but see, that's the thing. Like, you can't ask an academy player to lift you out of this kind of trouble.
Yeah.
Like, they need time to adapt. You know, you can't.
No, that's fair.
Like,
that's fair.
Chong, who's doing well out at Werder Bremen, scoring goals, which is good. So when he comes back, he'll probably slot in into midfield somewhere, but probably take Juan Mata's place in the squad. But yeah, we had 7 centre backs at one time before Smalling left, and 4 of them they hardly ever play because they're almost always injured.
That was the worst.
And we gave 3 of them new contracts, protecting asset value according to strategy. But yeah, it's just not working all over the pitch. And
why do you get rid of Smalling? He's your best defender at the moment. Seriously, by far the best. And, this is the thing, and I've seen it with us.
makes no sense at all, yeah.
I'm going to finish off with this point. The issue that you guys have is that Ole does not deal with the transfers. Him and somebody else need to have the power to be able to speak to whoever is at the board there going, okay, I need these players. They need to do what Edu and Arteta has done to get Kroenke to sign Partey. That's exactly what you need. That's what Liverpool does. That's not a head coach, it's a manager. You need somebody to be going to the board and saying, I need these players. These are my top 3 targets. You get them, or there's going to be a lot of hell to pay because this is not my team. And I feel like they've thrown Ole completely under the bus, and Woodward really should take all the blame because he does not know a thing about footy, and he should be leaving it to the footy department to make the transfers rather than himself.
Well, that's the thing. There is no football department.
Yep.
Like if the Manchester United men's team was run as well as the Manchester United women's team has been run in the last 2 years, we'd probably have won a title. But that's where we're at. Like we've got all the expertise is either in at other clubs or sitting on the sofas of Sky Sports and BT or somewhere else just commentating. We don't have any football people in the club other than Nicky Butt, who's coaching, but we've got no one doing the actual football work. Like I think Solskjaer either leaked it or said it in a thing, but like none of his top targets came in. They were faffing around trying to get Dembele on the bloody deadline day, and like the Sancho fiasco was just crazy. They tried to strong arm Borussia Dortmund when Dortmund had no need to sell, and Sancho isn't the kind of player who's going to kick up a stink because he's got no real desire or attraction to come play for Manchester United.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's just really interesting to see our teams. I've got the Man City team, Everton, all the main people that we think are going to be in the top 6. See how they go. We'd love to see what's going to happen during the COVID year where there's a whole cluster of games that are going to be happening. COVID's going to affect the teams. We've already seen that with Napoli. They had to pull a game because half their squad was COVID and they had to quarantine. Well, we're going to see really, really interesting things. I don't think City's played at their potential. They've had lots of COVID things. Tierney now in Arsenal's out because Scotland team had some COVID cases. I mean, it's going to be a really, really bloody interesting team. And I think that this year it's going to be whoever plays actually less football is probably going to do a lot better because they've got less chance of getting COVID. So that's the way that I see it at the moment. And I'm so happy you guys could come on board. Awesome to see you, Vish and Ponna. We are the Rivals, brought to you by A Breath of Fresh Footy. Remember to hit the subscribe button on the YouTube channel. Remember to also hit the like button on this video. And also we have a Facebook page called Breath of Fresh Footy. Please do a thumbs up. We are the lads. You're right.
And for any West Ham fans,
We are the lads.
don't worry. The rest of us love you. It's only Vishnu.
Hi, Maddie.
I like West Ham.
Yeah.
Atmosphere at the
Yeah, you like to sign their players, yeah, true.
We are the lads. Go MGS. And we shall see you probably next week or the week after the international break. And we'll be talking a lot of lads footy with you. Good evening and bye for now.